Wonderful. Well, welcome to the first World of Choices Skilled Trades event for this year, May 7th, for building spaces. We want to thank RBC for funding the World of Choices. And we would also like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, where our relationship is based in peace and friendship. And we also acknowledge that people of African descent have been in Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor those ancestors of African descent who came before us to this land. All right, so now we have Robert Coutinho from BMR Engineering, Structural Engineering, and he is a drafter.
Rob, thank you for joining us as we talk to a bunch of youth in Nova Scotia today about their world of choices, looking specifically in the trades sector and the technical world here in Nova Scotia. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So I'm a drafter with a structural engineering firm. We're considered a consultant, and basically what that means is we work with architects, other engineers like mechanical and electrical engineers, and collectively we work on large-scale commercial projects. So if you've been around Halifax or Nova Scotia at all in the last couple of years, you've probably seen no shortage of construction sites and large buildings going up all around the city. We're kind of the people behind that sort of make that happen from a design phase. So collectively, we design the buildings that you see going up. Specifically for the company that I work with as structural engineers, we kind of design the skeleton of the building. So the general layout, all the aesthetic stuff, say it's an apartment building, the layout, all the wall finishings, where the windows go, all that stuff, that's all up to the architect. We're the ones that, as structural engineers, that kind of make the bones of the building. So in our office, we have engineers. So to do that, you would go to university and become a structural engineer. They sort of size everything. So whether it's, your beams and your columns that make up the frame, my job is to sort of draw it out. And so I create drawings every day. And then the contractor, the guy who actually builds the building, he takes ours and then our drawings, and then he uses those to make the building happen. So that's kind of a large overview, but that's a general idea.
So I'm feeling like you're a translator of sorts. You take the fancy talk and the decisions and ideas and draw them into something that the construction team can work with.
Exactly. So there's two kind of main programs we use. A lot of people have heard of AutoCAD. That's what we use a lot of, and AutoCAD's been around for quite a while. There's a new program as well called Revit, and that's more of it allows you to also work in kind of 3D models. So a lot of our new projects, even though I'm mostly drawing in 2D, Revit has the neat function that it can kind of take what you draw in 2D and represent it in a 3D way. So we can make 3D models of our buildings. But yeah, a translator is a good way to sort of describe what I do. So basically, we get a general layout from an architect. The engineer will take a red pen and mark all over it and say, we need these items here to make the building stand up. And then I create our own set of drawings based on what the engineer provides me. So it sort of complements what the architect does. So some projects are quite small, like we do a lot of stores, like say grocery stores, like your Sobeys. Some of those might have 5 or 6 drawings in them, and then your large, like multi-story, say 20-story apartment buildings, those could have hundreds of drawings that go into that. So yeah.
Rob, what brought you to this as a career option?
Well, I had previously gone to university and studied psychology, so I thought I was going to go in a much different route with my life and careers. And I enjoyed my time. I went to Dalhousie, so I enjoyed my time there. And I did have a few jobs that I worked at after that, but I realized kind of in my mid-20s, I needed a bit of a change. And I always liked sort of the in like space between science and art. Like I never really saw myself as a true scientist or a true artist in either fashion. The thing I like about drafting is that you get to be there is a creative element every day. You know, you get to put your own sort of spin on the drawings you produce, but at the same time, it's a very technical field. So it kind of you kind of get the best of both worlds, I think. So that was kind of what drew me towards a career in drafting and construction. And I didn't really know exactly. I didn't think I'd be working at a structural firm. I thought I'd probably go more the architectural route, and I can get into the details and the program I went through and how that works out in a bit. But yeah, it just happened. One of my instructors in school, was one of my favorites, and we got along well. And he led me a certain way, and here I am. So
I really like that piece about the best of both worlds, being able to take the creative and art side that you enjoy and put it together with the more science and tech side and find something that works on both sides of the piece, like of those
absolutely,
transferable skills that you enjoy.
because at the end of the day, like whether it's you're working in an architectural firm or a engineering firm, like we're considered design professionals. So there's absolutely creative elements to it, but we're all sort of governed by building codes and procedures and a lot of scientific knowledge that has gone into why things work, especially now as things change. There's much more of a consideration for environmental concerns on making buildings more efficient. So there's you're sort of governed by both. You need to be creative and you want your buildings to look nice, but at the same time, you have to follow the rules at the same time.
If you could go back to your high school self and be like, these are the skills that you have or that you need to develop or that you really want to focus on, what would you say?
Um, well, from in terms of the specific program that I took with drafting, there's a you do have to do a bit of math and a bit of physics, but if it's not overly rigorous. So really, if you can get through high school math and physics with any sort of proficiency, then that's pretty good. Um, a lot of what I do is there's a lot of in-job training that you learn. Really, your skills come with experience. Um, I'd say one of the most important skills in terms of what we do is attention to detail, because there's a lot of overlap between it's not just conveying a piece of information in one place. Sometimes you have to convey the same piece of information in multiple spots, say on a set of drawings. Um, so making sure everything makes sense. And sometimes it comes down to the fine details on how things get put together. So I think that would be one of the most important skills to sort of work on. Trying to think as well, like some schools differ. I know, like the high school I went to did have a course that kind of we did a little bit of CAD work and we did some like we actually built like models of houses and stuff. And um, I remember really enjoying it in school. So, but again, for whatever reason, I thought I was going to go a much different route. So I wish I had have told myself then, you really like this. You should. I didn't even think about it, and maybe my guidance counselors didn't even mention that. That could be a career option at the time. But yeah, if the kids have any opportunities to play around with CAD, it's a good opportunity to get a sense of what the career and job would be like and whether or not they think it might fit for them. I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but
Yeah, no, that's great. Just those opportunities to really share. And I love that you shared that your career path changed, because too often we head out into the world thinking, I'm going to do this. And then we find a passion somewhere over here that connects to some other part of us, and that's okay. What would you say demand is like for drafters in Nova Scotia right now?
it's pretty high. I would say maybe not as high as some of the other trades. I know like careers like masons and electricians and a lot of the more physically demanding on construction site, what people think is of the more traditional trades, those are insanely high right now. At one point, it may have even gotten worse since I started 6 years ago. But at one point, it was for every 4 people leaving, there was only one person replacing them. That's not quite as high with drafting, but I will say the program I took, there wasn't a lot of people in the program. There was probably so at NSCC, there's sort of two avenues you can take, which more or less both direct you in the same direction to becoming a drafter. So there's a designated drafting program called drafting, but then there's also the course I took, which was called architectural engineering technician. And there's 2 or 3 different courses that separate the programs, but more or less they both gear you towards the same type of careers. So over the combined 2 courses, I'd say there's maybe 50 people that graduated. So not a super high number. So if you do go through the program and you do complete it, the success rate for people getting jobs is pretty close to 100%. Like,
Okay.
so with the program, there's a 5-week work term at the end. So the professors and the instructors are great at helping students get set up and find placements, because they're pretty much all previous people who've worked in the industry themselves. So they're great resources for helping you do that. It's not entirely all on your shoulders when it comes to that time. And then, yeah, I would say for my class, the only people who didn't immediately walk into jobs were people who, decided to do some other stuff, or, or move to a different spot, or, what I mean? They had other things going on, but anyone who was at all eager to find a job pretty much walked into one. And I know there are a lot of firms, both architectural or engineering, who are looking for people. So there's a good opportunity to sort of move around. If you start out in a work term and that company doesn't seem necessarily like the right fit for you, there's definitely opportunities to move around.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our youth today?
I guess one thing is, it's a little bit of a demanding job, but at the same time, the thing I like about it is there's constant opportunities to learn, and there's never sort of a day that's like the others. That some people might not like that. For me, it's great. 6 years in, and I'm still learning new stuff every day, which can be challenging sometimes, because the learning curve is steep. So it can take a while to get really proficient at your job. But I like the fact that throughout your entire career, the industry is always changing. New technologies come in, the way we make buildings change. So there's always new opportunities to learn new things. So it's probably one of the things I like the most about it. So definitely an exciting industry to get into.
That's great. Thank you, Rob, so much for joining us from
Yeah, my
BMR
pleasure.
Structural Engineering today.
Yeah.
It was great to have you here to chat with youth about the opportunity of drafting here in Nova Scotia.